Right, let's look at the competitive intelligence business case. Well, first of all, who do have absolute benefits in an organization when we look at knowledge management, information management and intelligence? Whatever organization you go into, they want to have this competitive intelligence or knowledge management or information management. And you always wonder, for who is it then? For how many people work here? And can we, one way or another, find out for how many, what percentage of the people this is of interest to? This question has been important for quite some time. And so when we were working at the headquarters of one of the biggest banks here in the Netherlands, we were establishing a method to really find out who were really helped by knowledge and information management or intelligence and who weren't. And we found out the following, and look at this graph here. When people are only given instructions or only given instructions in context, that actually for them intelligence or information, it is not necessary. They are doing their tasks maybe within a certain context of decision making, but they are not relevant for value-based services. The moment they do need information or intelligence to make decisions, or even consult to make decisions, they are knowledge workers, and for them intelligence and knowledge management, etc., is very relevant. In an average organization, this is 20%. 20% are knowledge workers. The rest of the people are very much steered by processes. They are kept within process management. So the knowledge workers normally are not well fitted into a process management environment. And in an average organization, which is not like a real research or a consulting house or a lawyer's firm or an accountancy firm, these people normally have a lot of knowledge workers, up to 80 to 90%. But in an average organization, a bank, an insurance company, these sort of companies, production companies, 20% of the people are knowledge workers, the rest do fit in the process. Okay, the next slide shows you the impact map for organizational knowledge or information or intelligence services. Well, it looks maybe a bit complicated, but it isn't. So you see this a large square, which is an organization, in this case the private sector organization, a company. In the heart, there is the department we are looking for their business case, their impact they have on the organization. So in this case it is a competitive intelligence center, a knowledge center or an information center. From there you see within the square we have little purple blocks. Each block is a department. R&D, production, purchasing, marketing, PR and communication, etc., etc. You also see things like risk management, audits, quality management, admin, ICT, finance. And if you have a good look, you can see the large square representing the companies divided in two halves. The right half does contain the purple blocks, where the arrows with the information flow, the black arrows, will go outside. On the left half, these are internal projects or staff departments, and these blocks remain internal. Now, what it actually all represents is that the size of the blocks shows the added value of the services provided, and the size of the arrow shows the amount of information that flows to these departments. And then we also establish if there is potentially more need for information. So we give that 1 or 2 pluses or 1 or 2 minuses according to what we expect that the full potential for the information or intelligence flow will be. That gives you a visual representation of the impact of the service department, centrally positioned in the heart of the organization. On the next slide, you see the competitive intelligence support of business activities. What are the main business activities that are really hungry for competitive intelligence? Well, first there is strategy, there is market entry, so new market initiatives, mergers and acquisitions, product development, legal and regulatory services, research and development, sales and business development. As you can see, we slitted them up in 3 slices and the percentages are coming from research that are done by SCIP, the Society of Competitive Intelligence Professionals. In frequently used, sometimes used, and rarely used. And with that concerns, we can say that for strategy, it is the main reason why organizations use competitive intelligence. The second is if they come into the market with a new product or service, the market entry, and they want to use it therefore. The third reason is for mergers and acquisitions, and so on. So that gives you a feel for where they actually need the competitive intelligence for. There's something else important for you to understand: the dynamics of knowledge and intelligence and its relation with their services. This is a representation of the intellectual capital in an organization. It's human capital and structural capital, let's say the information, all made explicit. The dynamics between the human and the structural capital represents the amount of intellectual capital and the health of the intellectual capital in the organization. I can also put a block around that and let that represent the department. So on the next slide you actually see that there are two departments communicating with each other. In this case it is the intelligence or information or knowledge services department and its client, its internal client. And then you can get three types of support: personal support, access to sources, to resources, or you can get an individualized, automated sort of supply into a portal of good information. These are three different relations you can have. If we're looking for added value, we're not looking on that level. This is a surface level, agreements level, where you say I want certain qualities and amount and it's simply measurable. If I look for the business case, I am not looking on this level, but I'm looking on the next level. There where the core process of the organization is. There where money changed hands. There where the process, where the value is created, takes place. And normally that is away from the intelligence or knowledge management services, but is done by the client of our departments. And therefore we have to concentrate on their core processes and measure there what their impact is. Now let's look at these core processes a step further, and we take an example here of an intelligence-rich process. Normally organizations, when they do have professional responsibilities, they would like to have general intelligence and general information purely for orientation and monitoring purposes. They monitor the market, they monitor competitors, they monitor all sort of new development, innovations in the market, innovations in publications. They want to know what's cooking. But the moment they start to be involved in a project, they want to have specific information. And actually the steps that follow then are very interesting, and we briefly go through them. First of all, there is information selection. So you select the right information for that particular project. Then you have a need to create information. Well, that splits up in three steps. First of all, if you create, you normally copy a lot of existing material, sources. That's what you use. You're inspired by them. It's research you can use, internal, external sources. Doesn't matter, you copy that. Often, you make a matrix of existing material and then you combine it. This combination makes new intelligence, and this is what you need. You need to be creative, and therefore you combine things. And of course, for a part, you create. You just create, and that's the third and most important and most valuable step. Once you've done that, you need to bring it into a shape which you can bring outwards. So you make a publication, you make a document, and then it is final. You publish that, and that's it. But in knowledge management we say we also want to have an understanding in the lessons learned, the insight, how it was facilitated, the coordination, etc. That's a debriefing. That's an important step as well. Now on this slide you see actually that we call this first step the orientation, the second is the project, and that's seen as two different steps. But when you do a project and you do not facilitate that project with good information, all sort of unrelated, unstructured questions will pop up and you don't know where they come from. And normally when you see an advance and a development of questions and demands for information and intelligence and you don't know where it comes from, you're normally not aware of the agenda in the organization, of the projects that are starting up, the strategic planning of the organization. And you normally find out there which projects are starting up, and so you realize where questions are coming from. Now, interesting enough, if any type of intelligence or information center facilitates professionals in the orientation phase, they agree their service level in a service level agreement, an SLA, and in that they agree on qualities like complete, consistent, fresh, accessible, navigational, reliable. These sort of qualities are described so that the user of these services agree that to what extent that is available. Concerning the unrelated questions, there is also service level agreement, but often it's in a workflow situation where you say, well, if you just come out of the blue with a question probably belonging to a project, but we can't place it in a general orientation or monitoring stage, it comes out of the blue, then we put it into what is called a workflow. And a workflow, this is, for example, you can see we put a question into a question database, and then after so many hours we will come with a response, and that response either is the answer, and if so, and it's the right answer and you're happy with that, then we put it in the answer question base. But if we cannot give an answer, then we tell you when we come back to you with our next steps and ideas, and then either we have an answer and then we ask if that answer was sufficient. If yes, then that is good and we put it in the answer database, and if not, then we offer further support, extra research and what have you. That is sort of a flow diagram. It was once, first of all, developed by Pink Elephant, an IT consulting firm here in the Netherlands, and it really took off on a larger scale where people really like the idea. I know KPMG has embraced that, for example, and so other large firms as well. So for the unrelated general questions that just come out of the blue, it can nicely fit into a workflow service level agreement. But the moment you're in a project and you have the need for intelligence or information, then you normally agree with the knowledge center or intelligence center a key performance indicator. And you say, well, whatever I get, I want to have it well documented, well communicated. I want that it adds value, so that the added value, when you come at the right moment with the right intelligence, so that I can make proper decisions, that the added value is understood and accepted. And also, in this way, how we deal with intelligence and information within the project, there is an important role for social media. Now, if we then use the social media in that project, and if you look at all these different agreement levels and quality controls, there must be benefits and costs somewhere. Where does that fit? Interesting enough, the moment your information and intelligence policies and all your efforts are dealing mainly with monitoring, orientation and unrelated loose questions, then it is normally seen as a cost activity, an activity that just costs money. If you are, on the other hand, with the same group of professionals, with the same services, you are involved in the projects, suddenly your organization will express itself in the benefits they can see, and what that concern, they will express themselves in KPIs. So it's very important that you realize that how these costs and benefits are different appreciations of the same thing. Let's look at the positioning of competitive intelligence. First of all, if we just want to know what happens, we can just use sources and that's it. Oh, well, that's what happened. Okay, we understand now. It's like reading the news. But the moment you ask you the next question, why did it happen, you have to do an analysis. That's more elaborate, it's real work, it costs money, it's important. Next step, what is happening now? That actually means you're monitoring, you're interpreting, you're understanding the current movement. Then the next step, what might happen? That's a prediction. And you can see on the scale that the higher the dotted line goes, the more business value, the more complexity, but also the more cost. And there you can see the growth on A, B, C, and D. It will increase with each step the business value, complexity, and costs. Now, let's quickly talk about making the business case for intelligence, knowledge management, and libraries. The business case, and this is just a definition, is a written document that is used by managers to garner funding for specific applications or projects by providing a justification for investments. So it's just something that they want to know, is it worth the money? What are the benefits towards the costs? It provides a foundation for tactical decision making and technology by management. It helps clarify the company's use of its resources to accomplish the intelligence strategy. So it's important that the intelligence is brought into a business case, that because it is valuable, that you know if it is worth it or not. The content of an intelligence business case. There's first of all a strategic justification. Where are we going? There is a generational justification. How will I get there? There is a technical justification. When will we get there? And a financial justification. Why will we win? These are 4 key questions. They all refer to a different type of justification of the intelligence business case. So go through them in your mind so that you understand how that business case then is funded. Then there are methods for demonstrating the value. Very briefly, there is first of all measuring the return on investment. So you invest, you want a return on that. How do you measure that? Then there are surveys that can show customer satisfaction and loyalty. So you gather stories and testimonials, even if they are anecdotal in nature, you just grab them and you sort of sample them as a proof. And then you can benchmark against other intelligence programs. These 3 are the main methods for demonstrating the value. My personal favorite is to do an ROI, return on investment measurement. All right, that's it. Thanks.